Hello? Can anyone around here speak basketball?
There it is.
It's the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.
We're going back to back. Welcome to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast. I am your host, Freddie Rivas. And who, sir, are you looking so good?
I am Matt Duncan, the producer, and I was just like lost in thought while you were doing our normal start because I really hope this isn't the last podcast where we can actually start it that way.
I know. I was thinking that as well while I was saying it.
I think we both were. Yeah, I could see it in your eyes.
And then I looked at you and I was
shit.
like, oh no, did he not press record yet? But here we are. You've arrived to the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast. We are a Raptor fan plus NBA podcast. We don't have, deep, connections, but we know a lot.
But we've got some good connections.
Yeah, we got some good ones.
We've built some. Yeah.
And Matt, if people want to, support us, follow us, all that good stuff, how may they do that?
Well, you can find us on the Sonar Network. You can go to thesonarnetwork.com if you want to check us out there, along with all the other great podcasts that are on the network. And as well, always go to dunkspodcast.com, as we always like to plug, because we've got all our links there as well for our podcatchers and our Patreon if you would like to support us. We would really appreciate that. And as well, just all our social media stuff you can find there as well.
Right on. I think we got to dive right into this podcast. We got some exciting guests. I'll just say to everyone, as always, email your city councilors, call your city councilors, and defund the police. Matt, if you feel like we're ready to get this pod going, please just give me the okay.
Okay.
Let's just bring on the guests and we'll get talking about all things Raptors. Number one, he's a hilarious comedian, amazing stand-up. We were just talking about all sorts of exciting things in the commercial world. Maybe we'll do another podcast one time talking about commercial shoots and the exciting happenings on sets around Toronto. But we're here to talk basketball. He's amazing. He's hilarious. This intro has gone on long enough. Give it up as loud as you can for Yaw Attuah. This is his on Ward's Island. Just in the summer, naked, maybe. I don't know.
No, very naked. I live for that song.
It's a big drop. I mean, I can picture salmon jumping in the Humber River, all sorts of things happening. God.
It is a summertime jam. It's a tune. I get very excited every time I'm on and every time that song plays. So.
Thanks for joining us, man. I hope I don't want to say I hope you're optimistic. I hope you're doing okay. That's what I actually hope.
Listen, my days right now are very, very busy, but being on COD right now is very important to me. So
that's right. It's an important, crucial time.
Yeah.
Let's bring on guest number 2. He's been on the podcast, I think, only once before, maybe twice.
Once before.
Not enough, really. He's amazing.
Now twice.
One of my very favorite basketball people in the basketball universe. The best Raptors podcast out there. Hot takes, actually not really hot takes, but like good takes. Give it up as loud as you can for Locked On Raptors, Sean Woodley. This is your resident music, which I can only sort of hear, so I assume it's pretty clear.
I can sort of hear it too. It's better than no music, so I'll take it. I've never had a musical intro before on a podcast, so we're already ahead of the game.
But Maddie takes care of you.
How you doing, Sean? Thanks for joining us.
I'm good, guys. I am not busy. I'm a person who worked from home before all this stuff happened anyway. So I'm just doing my thing, talking into a microphone. It's just with more people than myself and sometimes Katie.
Yeah, fair enough. Well, I feel like there's so much Raptors stuff we got to talk about right away. And I said I was going to keep this pod under an hour. Yeah, okay. I've put it on the record now, so I got to go for it. Maddie, if you got that Raptors sting, and I know you do, would you cue it up for me?
Raptors
Here we are. Raptors Celtics. It's game 5. This is it's a pretty intense series. I think a lot of people thought it would go 7. I thought it would go 7. I had the Raptors winning in 7. I feel like I'm still there. A lot has to happen, but I think a lot's already happened in the series, and we can do it. But Yaw, I'm going to start with you on this one. We've seen all these kind of like super crafty nurse zones, Siakam playing free safety at times on D, disrupting all sorts of action by the Celtics. And I think that defense requires quite a bit of the players who play it. And I've also heard a lot about, the guys being tired, and I think you could kind of see it, but then there's the whole, Coach Bud not playing his guys enough, and Nurse was doing the right thing by playing his guys huge minutes, but it's just a lot to kind of maintain defensively. Obviously we have last year's run, but we don't have Danny or Kawhi. And my question kind of is, do you feel like Nurse has underused the bench, or maybe should have integrated them into the series earlier? And do you think it's a trust issue with him? Like, is he just looking at guys like Norm and Boucher and Rondé and TD and just thinking about how they can't execute his defenses?
I think it's a little twofold at this point. Like, one, it's still like 5 games in, doesn't feel like we've gotten to the right type of rhythm, and I feel like our bench guys come in and like just pick up the steps if you were. So like I feel like this part, like we're not getting the right rhythm to set them up for success. And part that's like we don't like Boston like as a city of people. I'm sure the city is not.
Sure, yeah. No, I think the broader you go, the better.
Yeah, but like Boston, the Celtics team, the squad they put on the floor is formidable, and they do throw you off. And like I feel like Jason Tatum is a little overhyped, but I'm not saying that he's not good. He's just a lot of second coming of Kobe Bryant comes out of like Boston fans' mouths, and you're just like, come on, guys, slow down. Or like Marcus Smart is a defensive genius, which he's not. But like they're still a formidable squad that they're putting out there. It's just I think it's just. It takes a lot, and so we're just like right now. It's like it feels like a Brad Stevens, Nick Nurse chess matchup first before you get to the floor, and part of that is like really relying on your big guns. And I feel like they're both doing it. It's just in 5 games so far, Boston has a slight edge in that category.
Yeah, and I'm talking basketball 24/7 with basically anyone who knows me. And I was talking with my brother Miguel today, and I'm careful not to. He was saying I might be scapegoating Nurse a little bit, and I think that's partially true. And we've had Pascal kind of regress before our eyes offensively, and also I think to your point, the Celtics are formidable, and I don't know if Tatum's a Kobe, but I do think Tatum is ridiculous, and his patience on the court I think is bewildering, and the Celtics they're super talented, so they are frustrating, and this is kind of like a playoff series that, for whatever reason, it seems like we have a smaller margin of error than the Celtics do.
I also said before this playoff started that I believe that this is the Eastern Conference Championship. Like the winner of this is probably going to go to the finals. The Heat have since played a lot better than I thought, but I would still probably lean towards the winner of this series ends up being the East representative. But like, yeah, like it's a formidable opponent, and I don't think Nick Nurse is really scapegoat. Like I just think it's just much closer than people thought. I think Americans thought it was like they keep seeing the Celtics on TV, so they thought it was just going to steamroll them, especially after 2-0. And we're just sitting there, okay, 2-0, that's cool. We've seen this before. And like, so I think the Siakam thing, which I'm sure we're going to talk about, is like my biggest point of contention in the series.
But yeah, totally. And I think you got some major points there. And where I was heading was kind of in the direction, and Sean, this is for you, kind of the same question, but just like your overall take on Nurse and the series and, you know, going with his guys, and do you feel like he's played it right, or is it kind of, maybe more on Pascal?
Yeah, it's tough, right? Because like it kind of all bleeds into each other. Pascal can struggle, but it's like, what is Nurse doing to put him in positions to succeed, right? I think Nurse even talked about that last night. Like they haven't done a ton of Pascal creating. He hasn't had the ball in his hands enough. It's been a lot of, all right, go post up Marcus Smart, who is ridiculous on defense. And at some point in this series, the Raptors will recognize one time when Marcus Smart is guarding them and decide, hey, maybe let's not ISO this guy. But it's a whole multitude of things. I think Nurse is playing it right in terms of who he's playing. I mean, Norm has been awful. Like it's hard to overlook it. I mean, he's had like Terrence Davis looking jumps and fouls and just kind of the chaotic stuff that we thought Norm had kind of gotten rid of this year, right? I mean, his finishing around the basket was so good all season long. That's gone away. And so you're sitting there with like 6 guys that you trust, and apparently maybe Matt Thomas now. And it's just, I know there's no, like Yaw mentioned, there's not really margin for error, because like the Celtics at all times are going to have at least one of their big 3 guys on the floor, and usually 2. And that is tough to handle. You can't be rolling out like heavy bench lineups, because as much as we love Chris Boucher and Ronda Ellis Jefferson, they take away a lot on respective ends of the floor. I mean, it'd be nice to run Ronda out as a small ball 5 and throw him on Tatum a little bit, but he just can't do anything on offense. He's constantly falling down. And so when that happens, you kind of got to roll with your dudes. And then when your dudes are a 34-year-old point guard who needs to play 47 minutes for you to win a game, it's going to catch up to you at some point. And, I think there might be a bit of a blessing in that they didn't run their guys too hard in game 5, and maybe they'll be a little more fresh for game 6. But I think you definitely saw the toll of really the only path to the Raptors being their best selves and being able to beat the Celtics team is to play their top 6 or 7 guys as much as they can. And you can't like bench one of them because you're not deep enough to do that. And because really the only way you reach your potential is with Siakam playing a ton and Gasol playing a ton. Even if Gasol refuses to ever shoot, like he still needs to be out there because for his defense and his passing and all that stuff. So it's just it's a really tough matchup, man. I hate it. You'll find no love for Boston, the city, the people, the team, Bill Simmons, or anything on from me, but it's just
This is good. There's a lot of Boston slander going on.
Bill Simmons, just flame him.
Yeah, I want him to be sad all the time. And unfortunately, this basketball team is not set up to make Boston stand sad. They're very good. And like, I still think, there was a lot of like doom and gloom and despair after the game last night. And it's like, yeah, they might lose in game 6 and they might be screwed. And they might just be up against a better team. But as we talked about before coming on air, Raptors fans can rest easy knowing this was a wonderful season, and you can swaddle yourself in all your championship gear for the entire offseason until we get basketball again, whatever the hell that may be. And it's just, you tip your cap. It's a really good team. And I think Nick Nurse has had to play kind of desperation ball with his different defenses seemingly on a per possession basis and playing his best guys, because it's a really tough team to gain an edge against because of all the talent they have.
I actually don't think they're doing terribly on defense, to be honest.
No, they're not. They're really not.
Oh, I think we're doing great. I mean, Pascal had a bit of a rough game on defense yesterday or in game 5, but
yeah,
I think he's been fairly remarkable. Like the Tatum, there was a Tatum air ball sequence. He stripped Tatum around half court.
A shot clock violation he forced him into.
Yeah, there's been I think like to a man. That's kind of where my question was geared. And Sean, you touched on the Matt Thomas thing, which is what really kind of has like got my mind wondering, like, is it all about can you execute Nurse's defense? And if you can't, and to your point about Norm, I think there was one game where he fouled Tatum 5 times. Like 5 of his fouls were on Tatum.
Like I might be wrong. 90 seconds or something like that. It was crazy.
And just kind of like riding the back of him, and Tatum would put him in jail basically every time he was on him. So, that doesn't help. Yeah. But, then watching Matt Thomas kind of do some stuff, watching Terrence Davis on Kemba, although it was like fourth quarter garbage minutes, I still think there was a couple moments where Kemba was like, okay, this guy's huge and this guy's fast and he's not scared of me. I'm sure, you have 4 or 5 Kemba, TD sequences in a row and Kemba starts to pick him apart. But it just makes me wonder if Nurse is using all the intricate tools we have. And I think this kind of goes to the Ibaka walking boot news I just read.
Yeah.
And that makes me wonder, Sean, this is something I've heard you say on the pod that I totally agree with. And that's Rondé kind of struggling to share the court with Ibaka. So I wonder if Ibaka's out, can Boucher and Rondé play together? Is that a bit of a different look? Can one of those guys maybe integrate themselves into the game in a meaningful way? Yeah.
I mean, I don't think you can play them both together because you're like at all times you want to have one of Pascal or Mark on the floor, I would think, right? Yeah. Especially if you don't have Ibaka. So, Pascal play 40 plus minutes, most likely in game 6. There's not much to work with when it comes to minutes at the 4, and OG slides down to the 4 a bunch too. I think, Rondé is an agent of chaos. Yep. And we love him for it. I think if there's no Ibaka, you could maybe get away with something where you like they did against the Wolves. I think it was when they didn't have any of their centers and they had Rondé started center against Karl Anthony Towns, and he on offense kind of played point guard a little bit, which in an elimination game, maybe you don't want Rondé, Hollis Jefferson running your pick and rolls.
That's a lot of turnovers.
If you want for like 4 or 5 minutes just to get a breather for Gasol or Siakam, who I'd imagine will have to play some center if Ibaka is not available, maybe it's worth it because of his defense. Boucher he's so erratic to me and is just like very prone to getting bludgeoned by a guy like Daniel Tice, who's just thick and mean. And so he also seems to have really lost his range on his putbacks, which is notable considering that's like the thing he does best.
Yeah, I feel like he almost had a couple.
Yeah,
in game 5.
Like it's like a 3-point shooter who can't get his range, except it's dunks, and it's frustrating as hell because it's the thing he does best. Is the most exciting thing he does too. And so I don't really trust Boucher all that much. Without Ibaka, I think you just got to ride Gasol for like 30 minutes at least and just hope, and then you probably got to slide down. And I see Yaw wincing at the idea on the Zoom call of 30 minutes of Gasol, but like he's necessary, man. It's kind of the same thing with Pascal, right? Like you can think about benching Pascal if he's not playing well, but you're totally going to sewer yourself because his defense is so essential, and it kind of applies to Gasol as well. He is the rim protection. Yes, he's gotten blown by a couple times here and there by Kemba Walker, but for the most part, he's been damn good. And when they've been at their best, he's been damn good. And they're not going to be at their best if they don't get Gasol on the floor for as much as possible. I mean, before yesterday's game, the starters were absolutely kicking the piss out of the Celtics, which is, if you're looking for encouraging signs, like they were just like destroying them for the entirety of the series. And that was even with the game 1 blowout baked in. I mean, the Raptors had like a 7.8 net rating with their starting lineup, and the Celtics were like a minus 11.1 or something like that through the 4 games.
That's a nice thing to remember.
It is wonderful. Well,
Sorry, that was like for the audience, but for me, sorry.
The numbers are screwed because of game 5, but like that's been the case through most of the series. The starters are better, and it's because of Gasol and everything he does, even when he just refuses to even consider the notion of potentially maybe one time taking a shot.
It's truly frustrating when he doesn't look at the basket. That to me is like a whole other level. Sorry.
Well, it's the very opposite of what Russell Westbrook is doing in these playoffs right now. So it's like, you just really take the shot when you see the basket. You're a threat. You can hit those. So he's proven it before.
Yeah.
I want to go a bit more into Pascal and Kyle, and I think something really cool as far as player development. Although it was a bit unfortunate for Raptors fans, has kind of happened in this series, right? You know, you have Pascal training to be the number 1. He hurts his groin. His shooting kind of suffers a little bit. The league knows who he is. COVID happens. The pandemic happens. He comes back to the bubble. He's not shooting as efficiently, but also the team is fully healthy. So it's not the same chemistry that it was during the season. And it kind of just didn't matter at all against the Nets. We're a read and react team. We're just too smart. We kind of just went with the flow and beat the crap out of the Nets. There was one close game. And the difference from the Nets to the Celtics is just gargantuan. Yeah. And I think that was tough to deal with in and of itself. But I'll go to you first. It does seem, and if you disagree, please let me know. But like, it does seem like Kyle, kind of took the team back. And if our offense was struggling, he's like, well, I know that I can penetrate personally. If Fred can't do stuff and Pascal can't do stuff, I still can, because I'm Kyle Lowry and I'm like a walking legend, basically. But do you think we can win this series with Kyle continuing to do that, or do you feel like there has to be like some, Pascal just like, buddy, you can do this. We're going to push you. Nurse has kind of slightly publicly called you out, but like not in a major way. I guess I'm asking, like, do you think there can be like a transfer back of power and that's how we win? Or is it has to stay as it is?
I'm going to say two things. Okay. They're in two parts. So the first part is about Kyle Lowry. Second part is about Pascal Siakam. So the part 1 about Kyle Lowry. First of all, the most underrated player in the NBA. Brad Stevens has said it. I've said it for months. He's by far the most underrated player in the NBA. I don't think he, quote unquote, ever lost the team. He was the leader the entire year.
Thanks for saying that, because I was going to correct myself. Like, it really is Kyle's team, but you know what I mean? We were trying to feature Pascal.
I know. I think I credit that or discredit or whatever. The media, it's the media's fault, because the media saw Pascal Siakam like rise up and like, he's their new number 1. And our team has been like, yeah, sure, whatever. Say whatever you want. So it's always been Kyle's team. This is why he did the inbound, which was very important. That's why that play what it is. It is why, like, when we're down, he gets us a bucket. It's why he leads the league in charges. He's always been the leader. He just does more. Everyone just expects a leader to hit a bunch of shots and drop 40, and that's just not his game. And frankly, we're not at our best if he does that. The second part is Siakam. I had to look this up, but I'm not 100% sure of the second part of the stat. Has scored 25 more points in 20 games this year. I believe we're undefeated in those games. It's either that or like we've lost one. But it's a staggering record when he gets going. So getting going is very important, because there's something about like him drawing attention that opens us up. So I understand why Fred and Kyle have been saying like we need to get him going, and it's very important to get him going. And I also feel like when he's on, he is a matchup nightmare for everyone else in the league that isn't Giannis. So it's important to get him going. I don't think it's the be all. Like, we've already proven we won 2 games without he got going in 1 game without really getting going. I don't think it's the end of us if we can't get him going, but I feel like this series is completely different if he's averaging his 22 a game, as opposed to like Fred leading us in the playoffs at 19 a game. It's like, it's a very different look of his team.
Yeah. Sean, what do you think? Can Kyle, like, I mean, I guess, sorry, you know what? Kyle can, right? Kyle can do whatever
Just
whatever the question
that he
is.
can do anything. Yes.
Yeah, that's right. But you know, just for right now, not for long term, do you think there is a way to kind of get a better version of Pascal for these next two games?
I mean, I don't know, man. He really does seem out of sorts, and that seems like the layoff really did affect him. And I'm not sure, if you can just snap back to regular form. But I do think like it is kind of one thing feeding the other a little bit, where like giving the ball to Kyle more and having him create more like he did in games 3 and 4 and didn't really for the most part in game 5. And it was a lot of Fred dribbling for like 20 minutes and forgetting to pass to anybody. I think if you give it to Kyle more and, work Pascal in as a screener, have him like run that pick and roll they just destroyed teams with in crunch time all season long. Like, that's the way to get things going for Pascal. It's not to just throw it into the post to him, because the Celtics do have very good defenders, and Jaylen Brown has done an excellent job. And Marcus Smart seems like you can post him up, but you can't. It's a Kyle Lowry situation, except he's got like 4 inches on Kyle. And so, I think it's sort of at a necessity that Kyle's done more, because Kemba Walker is the guy you can attack, and the Kemba Walker, Daniel Tice pick and roll coverage is the thing you can attack. And oftentimes Kyle is the one that's able to sort of pick that apart. Right. But there are also ways to work Pascal into the flow of the offense, particularly as a role man. And, we saw it even early, I think, in yesterday's game where, a nice little pick and pop, he gets an 18-footer. That's like a comfortable shot for him when he gets it in that. It's kind of like the Serge Ibaka jumper, right? And, forcing him to post up a million times into a defense that knows exactly what's coming when your shooters aren't exactly like lighting the world on fire either. And so you're not even making that much good out of the kicking out and swinging it around, opportunities that posting up gives you. It just feels like they're forgetting him a little bit. They're forgetting what made him so good. And a part of that is Boston doing a very good job. But also I think, as much as I love Fred VanVleet and I think the Raptors should pay him all the money, I think so a lot of onus for game 5 goes on him, because I thought it was a lot of his drawn out possessions where he kind of forgets Pascal's on the floor a little bit, runs pick and rolls with Gasol or Ibaka and resets it 3 or 4 times. And then all of a sudden, oh shit, we got to kick to the corner for an OG late second 3. Like that to me was what sapped all the life out of the offense for the Raptors. And, you have to remember you have Pascal on the floor, and they did at the start of the third quarter. I mean, they gave it to him a few times. He, had a couple improvised post ups, things like that. And he ran a couple pick and rolls, and lo and behold, wow, there's buckets to be had. It's just, I feel like at times their offense can forget about him. And I think running things through Kyle, who always knows when to make sure guys are eating and is very mindful of that in a way that I don't think Fred has quite mastered. I think that helps you in terms of getting the most out of whatever this version of Pascal with the 4-month layoff baked in is. I think Kyle is sort of the vehicle to get the most out of him.
I was also going to say, I was looking at if you look at the box score, didn't he only take 9 shots last game, Pascal?
Yeah, 3 in the first half. Yeah.
Yeah, 3 shots in the first half.
You can't have that.
It's kind of unacceptable if you, especially when your team is a little better. So yeah.
Yeah, I'll take him just firing away from 3 over only shooting 9 shots any day. Like I kind of hope that there's not like a talk with Pascal, but I hope that like there's this idea where it's like, hey man, you will and were becoming the playmaker that this team will need post Kyle, but we do still have Kyle and he can play make, and you just worry about stressing out their incredibly, sophisticated transition defense. But run, you're ridiculous. You're so tall and you're so fast, and don't worry about the, D-Reeves. You're just going to leak out like crazy. Pretend it's Golden State game 1 of the finals, and see if you can just get as many transition buckets as you can. Even if you can't, that might change the dynamic of things a little bit. And to your point about Fred, Sean, I couldn't agree more. I feel like Fred, is a good playmaker, and that's also something he's developing as well. It wasn't so long ago that he couldn't even really do the pick and pop with Serge that well, and they kind of developed that this year. And I love the feeling when there's a bit of chaos. Maybe there's an O-Reeb and the ball somehow finds Fred, who's a couple feet away from the 3-point line. Like that's the Fred I love. Mm-hmm. And if you watch
he's so good off the ball. He's so good.
Yeah, exactly. If he's just waiting there and the ball rolls to him, like that three is going in. And I think, in the bubble and against the Nets, we saw, I think, where Fred maybe is going. But similar to Pascal, I think we got to kind of take what we have and let Kyle run the show, but try to feature those guys. Okay, I'll finish on this and I'll stick with you, Sean. Then we'll go to you after Yaw. This is a weekly podcast, so the next episode, we're taking a bit of a leap of faith. Games 6 and or 7 will have happened, and perhaps even a game 1. Or maybe not. I'm not sure when the conference finals start, if there's like a slated date when it starts, but
there isn't. But
yeah,
there
Sean.
was, and then the stoppage I think kind of threw the whole schedule for a loop, and they're just going to go right into it. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay. So yeah, next Tuesday. What I don't know what the date's going to be, but yeah, next here I'm the 15th. Yeah, so next 15th.
Very aware.
What's going on, Sean? What are you telling Raptors fans?
Look, man, I want to be the optimistic one. I think we very well could be talking about a game 1 against the Heat for sure. I don't think that's off the table by any means, but Boston's really good. It's a shitty matchup. They're really, really good. And yeah. I feel like it's going to go 7. I feel like we're going to be talking about a wonderful game 6 win and then flip a coin for game 7. So this is difficult. Out of the interest of not having Bill Simmons be happy. Yeah. Raptors Heat game 1 going on next Tuesday or Wednesday. Fine.
I like it. Good. You know what? It's. I think you covered like all the areas of potentially grieving Raptors fans to ones that are like, hey, you doubted us for half of a sentence. Yeah. Well, what are you telling people? A week into the future.
We're talking about how if we get to a game 7, I feel confident we will. Game 7s are very different from the rest of the series, where it requires a different metal. So we're talking about how can we match up against Jimmy Buckets, because Buckets is a tough matchup for any team. And it feels like we're going back to work. We're not like celebrating. And I feel like that's the difference between like a team that has championship expectations versus like we're just happy to be here. Like I remember the Raptors days when we were making the Eastern Conference. We made the Eastern Conference Finals against the Cavs, and we were just happy to be there. And now we're like, okay, let's punch the clock and do it again. But I'm good. I feel confident about game 6, and I personally feel very confident about this squad going into a game 7 against Boston, as talented as Boston is.
Yeah. And
how much the media will talk about this is Tatum's coming out moment. It's still going to be a bigger moment than they're used to versus what our team is like. Our team could settle in a game 7. Opposed to like for them, it's like they're getting up for it. They haven't made the Eastern Conference Finals. So for them, it's like a bigger deal, and for us, it's like another step. So I feel like if we get past game 6, I like our chances.
I will also say, I think if they get past Boston, which is a particularly bad matchup, like I feel very good about the Raptors in a Heat series. I know Jimmy Butler's a maniac, but like Kyle Lowry is an equal maniac to Jimmy Butler. And the Heat have shown very little ability ever to guard a point guard. It just so happens that the point guard the Bucks have is Eric Bledsoe, who we know is a fraud, along with everyone else on that team and their coach. But like the Heat have defended the Bucks so well because the Bucks don't adapt, and it's basically just everything is a nail and they are the hammer, but like sometimes you need a different tool, and they don't have that. Whereas if you go and look at like a Heat Raptors matchup, there's so much less preparation you can do if you're the Heat for the Raptors, and there's only so much you can do possession to possession. You have to change things up, and I think in particular, I don't see the Heat scoring on the Raptors at all. Like the Raptors have a versatile defense. They don't do the Bucks thing where they run the same defense every single possession, and that's just how they do it. Like the Raptors will run like 6 different defenses in a quarter, and so with that, I feel like I was at 2-2. I was like already thinking about the finals because I find the Heat to be as good as they've been against the Bucks. There are a lot of holes in that team that I just don't really buy in a series where there's a competent coach on the other side who, wants to make adjustments and is not apparently like trying to get fired. And so, as another kernel of optimism for Raptors fans, I feel like things get easier if you get through this series.
As I said, I feel like the series was the finals. I feel like the winner of this is going to represent the East.
And I thought I saw there was a tweet somewhere that was just saying like, this is where the defense is at in the league right now. And it's actually kind of like funny to watch the Western Conference series after this, because like, it's just, I mean, actually the Clippers kind of turned it on there in game 3 a little bit. But I do think that this series is just so defensive that our, kind of similar to last year, like after we got past Philly, our offensive players were kind of like, they were able to flourish a bit more. Norm was able to go, Fred was able to go. And I think like, we need to play more players against the Bucks. My insane prediction is that, we are waiting on the Bucks Heat series to end to figure out who we're going to play between the Bucks and the Heat, because somehow the Bucks have won 3 games in a row against the Heat without Giannis, and people are still clowning Bud because he's not even really responsible for it. Like he doesn't know how it's happening. It's mostly Middleton. That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen at all.
I was like, that is a caveat. You said insane. So
yeah. But anyways, let's move on to some NBA stuff. Maddie, if you got an NBA sting for me, would you give it to me?
National Basketball Association.
Classic Adam Silver tugboat in there. I don't know if I heard it this time.
No, just me explaining what NBA stands for.
Oh, good. Yeah, that's always like a nice clarity moment in the pod.
That's like the professional move when you're on a television panel and you have to kill a minute. Just say National Basketball Association 5 times, and then boom, your segment is over.
They're like, this is a robot of some kind, but it's a good design. Like
you're watching National Basketball Association basketball. All right, time for commercial.
Hey, this guy's a pro. Let's go to you first, Yaw. Which non-Raptor Celtics series is going to 7?
The Lakers Heat. Lakers Rockets. I feel like both those Western Conference series can go to 7. But if you're like pick one that's for sure going to 7, I'm gonna lean towards the Lakers Rockets just because the Rockets are such a streaky, hot, cold team that like for 3, you can be like for 3 games they played their best basketball, and for 4 games they played their basketball. Like I could see that more so than the Nuggets Clippers, but I feel like the Nuggets Clippers is because the Clippers get lazy. But
yeah, my pick was going to be Nuggets Clippers because not necessarily the Clippers, mostly just because I don't remember the Nuggets ever playing a series that wasn't 7 games in the past little while. There's something about that team. Like they have a lot of depth, a lot of talent. Sometimes Jokic seems like basketball is easy. But so that was my pick. And definitely not the Heat Bucks. Sean, what's your going to 7 non-Raptor Celtics team?
I was going to say Nuggets Lakers until Kawhi flipped the bird at a Jamal Murray dunk and ruined any hope. But like, I feel like Denver needed that game if they were going to win the series. That felt like one of those crushing losses. And like poor Jeremy Grant just missing every wide open three that Nikola Jokic creates for him because he's a genius. Just a bummer. I think it's Lakers and Rockets as well. It's such a weird series between two like very flawed teams, but they're flawed in different ways in that like the Rockets supporting cast, I absolutely trust, which is weird, but like PJ Tucker rules and Robert Covington is awesome. And like Austin Rivers is somehow pretty good off the bench and Daniel House is good. But then they have like these mercurial stars and like I mostly trust Harden, but Westbrook is like actively bad right now. And that is working against the cause. It just so happens that he's up against a supporting cast for the Lakers that sucks. Like LeBron and AD are great. Everyone else on that team is just like incomplete or they're still in like sleeper cell mode like Danny Green was when he played the Raptors and he's just like never gotten out of it. And then like Alex Caruso is their fourth best player. It's just like, what are you supposed to do with that? So I feel like it's going 7 because neither team will be able to get out of their own way and will like cough up hilarious losses. I want to pick the Rockets to win just because I think it'd be funny, but I begrudgingly think the Lakers will win because I trust LeBron and AD more. And then I think they'll get absolutely killed by the Clippers because they have a trash supporting cast.
I have a Raptors Rockets final in my head from the beginning of the season. So I'm sticking with it right now.
PJ Tucker Bowl. Hell yeah.
Right. I also feel like, it is. I know the Rockets frustrate people, but I just love when a team is trying to like break a sport or they're just trying to do something that frustrates people. That's so kind of like such a strict vision. Also, because, Sorry
to interrupt, but this fires me up. It's not like they're doing anything different than any other team where, threes are good and mid-range shots are bad. They're just doing it better than anybody else and realize, this center is kind of a dumb middleman we don't need. Like,
they're not that different than the Warriors.
I don't think they're doing it better than anybody else. I think they're just doing it more prolifically than anybody else.
Sure. That's also fair. Yes.
They're getting, listen, if Westbrook gets out of his own way and stops shooting threes and just attacks a guy who's standing like 5 feet away, because you really can't stop him if you give him that much of a head start and he just goes downhill on you. I feel like he's going to drop like 30 points a game if he does that. And I think those are the games that they end up winning. I think when it comes to game 7, though, Russ regresses, Harden can't shoot to save his life, and LeBron James does what he does in game 7s, which is destroy. He's like the playoff.
I feel like that series is like what was that show? There was like 2 shows that were basically the same. I think it was like BattleBots and Robot Wars, but I feel like that series, like, it's like Houston is like, has like a torch that's like kind of not doing much, but the Lakers are like just this like square thing that has a flipper. And it's like, it's just weird. Like they're not really hurting each other. They're kind of just doing things in the same area. But
it's a series that like produces takes, like good ass takes too, which is great. You gotta love takes, and there's no takier series unless like the Sixers had actually given the Celtics a fight. Like that might have been a little takier, but no, this is take heaven with Lakers and Rockets. No matter what the outcome is, either Westbrook and Harden are broken, Daryl Morey's a fraud, or LeBron is washed and he's never going to be the GOAT, and Anthony Davis is just never going to be a suitable number 2. Mm-hmm. It's just all very juicy and delicious.
Yeah, Caruso's best dunker who ever lived. Okay, I wanted to go to the Steve Nash hire a little bit because I feel like it was interesting, and I wanted to talk about like some of the frustration and also just like kind of like check your guys' temperature on it. When I first heard it, like, I did have the feeling of, not necessarily like, it should have been Becky Hammond or I wish it was Jerry Stackhouse. But I did have like another white man feeling. But then also, kind of convoluted by it's Steve Nash, who's good friends with Kevin Durant, and I think a lot of people would be really excited to have Steve Nash as your head coach, and he's probably going to be an excellent head coach. But it's kind of just this middle feeling of like, where does it start though, and when do those hires happen? And if feel free if you don't have like an excellent take on this or opinion on this, that's okay. I kind of wanted to bring it up because it's one of those headlines that has me feeling both ways, I guess. Maybe I'll go to you first. Yeah.
There's a couple things. I feel like in my heart of hearts, I believe this is like the one exception to the what the hell, why didn't you interview Mark Jackson or insert other coaches' names that are available here. I think because of how finicky Durant is, and it's 100% how finicky he is, I don't think they give a shit about like Kyrie and how he feels about it, because frankly, like whatever he wants.
Who knows what he's feeling ever?
Yeah. I think it's because of like making Durant happy and getting his guy that's why they have it. And getting a 2-time MVP who's a point guard of that mind from a certain system, like all these like weird stars are aligning with Steve Nash. So I'm not like going to kill it. I forget there's a coach's name that's not in my head right now that I'm thinking of. The guy who used to coach the Grizzlies. Fizdale, yeah. Like a Fizdale or a Mark Jackson who, for some weird reason, coached a good team, did not get along with him and has been banned from coaching, even though Larry Brown notoriously didn't get along with anybody who wasn't a veteran. So I feel like it's really weird that those two coaches didn't get a chance. But I feel like Steve Nash is like the weird exception. And it's only Steve Nash going to the Nets. Like if Steve Nash went to like the Hawks or something, then I would have like a bit more of an issue because of these like players like Jason Kidd suddenly getting a head coaching role that he didn't deserve, or Luke Walton coaching the Lakers out of nowhere, even though he hadn't proved he was a winner at any point in his career. Like Fizdale and Mark Jackson were the two names that come up. Becky Hammond clearly seems like she deserves it at this point, and you just want to see what she does when she's finally at the helm.
By the way, I was right about to interrupt you by saying, no, Fizdale's the coach of the Knicks, but he got let go by the Knicks. I feel like I missed that.
Fizdale got let go by the Knicks, and
Tibbs is their coach now. He's going to ruin RJ Barrett like he ruined Andrew
my
Wiggins.
God. Yeah, how am I for Tibbs? Tibbs. Yeah, so, Sean, I feel like we covered a lot of ground, but like, yeah, did you have complicated feelings, around this? Was this like kind of like a one particular exception because of Steve Nash? Like I related to Yaw when he said that as well.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, like I think a couple things can be true. I think like, yes, this can be an extreme one-off circumstance because of the nature of KD, but it also can be, kind of emblematic of the problem in that, it's
right.
not just black coaches who don't get interviewed. It's, Becky Hammond for how long has been sort of in this waiting period where
it feels like 6 years now.
Yeah. And like Greg Popovich is like able to legislate when she can coach and not, and says, I don't feel like making history today. And it's like, well, and there's just all this whole sort of like pay your dues stuff that gets thrown around, not just with Becky Hammond or it could be any coach, pay your dues and you'll get there. And Steve Nash literally didn't even want the job. He didn't have to pay any dues, wasn't even thinking about paying the dues. And now he's the head coach of the Nets. And it's just like, yeah, there's something weird and wrong there. Yes, KD is particularly finicky. And yes, you want to hire someone who's going to make him happy first and foremost. But still, there's very clearly a problem here with the sort of hiring practices in the NBA. And also, I don't think there's any guarantee this is actually going to work. Like, yes, you've appeased one player on your team.
Now we're getting to the good stuff because I don't think the Nets are going to be good. Sorry.
Yeah, well, like managing personalities is not easy. And we've heard from Nick Nurse and a lot of guys who, like, I think Taylor Jenkins is another example where just the very experience of being a head coach, regardless of the level, and the understanding that it's not just about the X's and O's and it's about the personal management. And hey, maybe Steve Nash is great at that, but we don't know that. And this is a team with basically a 2-year window here before Kyrie and KD's contracts are up. And they have thrown a rookie coach in who we have no idea how he's going to handle the interpersonal stuff. And that's already a team that's going to have a ton of drama. You've got Jarrett Allen, who's very good, who probably is not going to be on the team because they want to start DeAndre Jordan, even though he's bad now. And you have like Karis LeVert, who is very clearly quite good, but will he be good off the ball as like a third or fourth option? I don't know. Spencer Dinwiddie's still there too. There's a lot of egos to manage there. Guys who, because of all the injuries they've all had tastes of being number one options. And that's a lot to ask of a first year guy. And that doesn't even get to the point that I have kind of thought about, which there's a lot of really, really great players in all sports who suck ass as coaches because they can't impart the wisdom. They can't just be like, hey, read the floor like Steve Nash. That's not easy. He's like a once in a lifetime point guard. Trying to impart that wisdom feels impossible to me. Mm-hmm. You saw in like the NHL, like Wayne Gretzky was like one of the worst coaches we've ever seen. Because like he couldn't just be like, all right, so you see that pass that was 8 seconds out that you didn't see, like you should have seen that because I would have. That's how these guys are going to resort to coaching. And so maybe Steve Nash is a way to bridge that gap. I don't know. It's probably too early to judge him as a coach, but the circumstances under it, like they certainly point to a problem in coaching and hiring practices. And also this just feels like, I can swear on this podcast, right? Like It just feels like another star fucking move by the Nets, and their whole predicament began with a whole era of star fucking when they wanted to get Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce and Jason Kidd, and that went horribly. And they are probably going to be better than they were with those teams because they bottomed out or like topped out as like middle pack, second round East teams. But it's just, it's all the same kind of hiring practices that the Nets for like 5 years completely abandoned as they tried to become a competent franchise once again. And now that's all out the window, and we'll see. And also Jacques Vaughn should have got the job. He took that dog shit team and made them good.
Oh,
and
man.
That like of all the things that are upsetting is that Jacques Vaughn is like, oh, he's a very highly paid assistant now. Great. Awesome. Like he should have had the job.
I thought he was, it's weird when it's a sweep, but I thought he was really good in the first round.
He got them to the 7 seed with,
but even against
nobody
against the Raptors. Like I thought they played really hard. I thought they tried to leverage, what they had and tons of shooting.
I feel like they're going to have a problem in the future with the fact that, Jacques Vaughn's still on the staff, which is good. Because usually in those situations they get rid of that staff member. But then you have KD and Kyrie. Kyrie wasn't like their favorite already, so it's going to be. I'm with you, Freddie. I don't feel like they're going to be nearly as good as people think they are. So.
Also, we just beat them, right? So it's still a bit of a fresh fuck Brooklyn.
Yeah.
I said it was this pod was gonna be under an hour, and I meant it. So let's do some quickish questions. We're not there yet, but I feel like I can pull it off. We can do this.
I was gonna say National Basketball Association a bunch of times. We're gonna go over an hour, and I'm gonna own.
Oh yeah, I'm like we're at the the 59th minute, and you
got some quickish questions about the National Basketball Association, in which they play national basketball. All right, let's go.
It's so smooth. I don't know what to do, and he's just going on.
Yeah,
guys, this is the National Basketball Association. Have I mentioned that?
This is the Confederacy of Dunks podcast talking about the National Basketball Association.
Okay, that's some solid filler. Maddie, if really you got that quickish question sting, please, sir, give it to me.
Quickish Questions.
Okay. I think everyone knows how this works. I'm going to try and stumble through some questions. They might be hard to decipher. I might misread a comma. It doesn't matter. You have to answer as quick as you possibly can. No phoning a friend. No delaying, anything like that. Matt, I'm looking at you.
Jeez.
Let's do it. Are we good to go or what?
Yeah.
Okay, let's go Yaw, Sean, Matt. All right. Yaw.
What up?
Should the Raptors choose to acquire Giannis, how do you see him fitting next to Pascal?
I see them playing bigger. They still have a center in a Gasol or somebody. Giannis playing the 4, Pascal playing the wing, OG playing like a 2 like position, and then Freddie starting, because I feel like by the time we acquire him, we don't have a Kyle Lowry. But I also see them playing together on the court because they did in the All-Star game, and that was their first taste, and they're like, we want to do more of this.
I love it. Sean, you're not going to like this question at all.
Okay.
Why is Gasol playing drunk?
Still like lingering happy championship feelings and an abundance of rosé in the bubble, perhaps.
Yeah, because he's playing. You know,
the best I can offer.
Yeah,
he lost so much weight that now just like a single glass of wine just puts him over the edge. So yeah, I think we've established it there.
Okay,
it's good to be
100% it.
as I have will never slim down. I think it's good to be a doughy fellow. Marc Gasol has made it very clear to me that exercise is actually a scam that you should not be taking.
Correct. Matt.
Yes.
What's the first word that comes into your head when you hear Marcus Smart?
Well, it was Alec. Does that make any sense? Smart Alec.
Oh, Smart Alec. Okay, that's not. I don't know what that is, but that's.
I love how it got you, Sean, though.
I hate it.
Yeah, I almost punched my laptop. Yeah. What advice would you give to Nick Nurse right now in preparation for Game 6 and possibly Game 7? Because Nick, he needs our advice, right?
Of course. I'd say, hey, get your guitar out, start playing some Markells, and think about how you always want Kyle to bring it up the court and how you can get Pascal his 25 and win the game. And that's all.
Okay.
Feel like you're doing everything else right, baby. Play me a sweet jam on that guitar.
I like it. Sean, after Pascal hit a picturesque sweet chin music on Tice, what wrestling move would you like to see executed next game, and on what Celtic, or which Celtic?
I mean, a classic. I'm not much of a wrestling person, so I don't know the nomenclature. But I would be fine if someone wanted to hit Daniel Tice with a chair also. He has the face that I hate the most on the Celtics. It's not even close. It's absurd. I hate it.
Okay, that's perfect nomenclature, first of all. Second of all, I love that you didn't pick a new person. It's Tice again.
Just keep on going.
Tice.
He just has this face whenever he is upset with a call. It's like this condescending smile. I don't know, man. It just doesn't do it for me.
Smiles that are actually angry or frustrating.
If Gordon Hayward were playing, by the way, it'd be him, Trump donating ass. But he's not playing. He's injured. We should probably not hit him with chairs while he's hurt.
Oh, I didn't know that.
This team is
extra hate him
worse without him playing. By the way,
for me, I mean, I think Stevens needs a Stone Cold Stunner more than anyone I've ever, just one of those ones where he turns around and he didn't know Stone Cold was waiting for him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
just
Matt,
knock the khakis right off of him.
Yeah, and I'm sure he's really a nice guy at the end of the day, but it's more fun if I make him into this character.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking. If Gordon Hayward was playing, it'd be a very different series because for some weird reason, Brad Stevens plays him way too much, and now that he's not available, they're much. I
do think, I mean, it would change everything defensively.
If there's one type of person that Pascal Siakam loves to spin into oblivion, it's a 6'7" white guy.
That's right. That's 100% correct. Okay, Matt, this is the last question of the pod.
Holy cow.
It's Saturday morning, the day after Game 7. How many slices of toast will you have with your breakfast, and what will you put on them? And that's a reference to Brad, aka Bread Stevens.
Because it's going to be a victory, I'm going to go out and I'm going to treat myself to a little white toast, which I never have. I'm going to get some Texas toast, that thick stuff. I'm going to go half a bag. I'm going to go half a bag for breakfast there. And I'm going to just, cook 12 eggs, have them runny, and just sop it up. And I'm going to like have a big yolk smile around thinking about Brad Stevens.
This is good. I need I need a Werner Herzog kind of narrate. You know what I mean? Like I want you just to be someone to be watching you from afar in this moment. You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
But guys, that's the pod. Thank you so much all for doing it. I think we're technically we're almost there. But before we go, Yaw, I saw you've done a couple shows. I think maybe one show. I don't know. Do you have anything going on? Anything you want to plug? And if you don't, do you have a message to the world?
There's a couple things. One, I'm not going to do any shows until after the 18th. On the 18th, I am getting married.
Oh.
Hey.
So this will be the last pod I do before I get married, unless for
honored.
So it'd be great. My message to everybody is be safe, be kind, and follow my ass on Instagram at Yaw Experience, YAW Experience. It'll brighten your life.
It will brighten your life. Sean, you got locked on. I mean, anyone who listens to this podcast, hopefully you also listen to the Locked On Raptors pod. It's fantastic. But yeah, is there anything you want to plug besides that or that?
Yeah, Locked On Raptors. We cover the Toronto Raptors of the National Basketball Association. We also, friend of the podcast, Katie Heindel, and I do a podcast called Basketball, where we also talk about the National Basketball Association. It's good. It's a really good time. We have a Patreon page, and actually next week we're doing a Zoom trivia night for our Patreon subscribers only. So if you want to get in on that action, it's like $4 to sign up. You get into our Discord chat and all that stuff. So I'm sure listeners to this podcast are familiar with Katie. If you don't like me, you'll certainly like Katie, and it's probably enough reason to subscribe to the podcast.
You'll like them both. I swear you'll like them both.
You're very likable. You have a likable face.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
Opposite of Daniel Tice, whose face is unlikable and the receiving end of an RKO.
This is the nice face pod.
Are you saying that my face is the antithesis to Daniel's?
Hey.
That was bad.
That was pretty good. It was pretty good.
I'm with it.
I could read it as you said it.
Yep.
Okay, that's it for the pod. Everyone, share, subscribe, all that good stuff.
Hello? Can anyone around here speak basketball?
There it is.
It's the Confederacy of Dunks Basketball Podcast.
This podcast has been brought to you by the Sonar Network. Sonar!